So it's time to take another look at a full Betfair trading football strategy. And in this video, we're going to be looking at the domination strategy. This is a pretty well-known football trading method which is used in the first half of football matches. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to do a step-by-step strategy explanation. I'm going to walk you through the strategy from beginning to end. We're going to be looking obviously at the advantages and the disadvantages, and then we're going to get down to some really good stuff as we're going to look at some real life demonstrations of this method recorded on Betfair before we come to our final conclusions about the strategy itself. So grab a cup of tea. This is going to be a good one. Let's get into it. So the domination strategy, as I touched upon, it is a pretty well-known strategy, and you might be surprised by how simple this strategy actually is. It is as simple as you're backing the dominant team in the first half and then trading out for a profit after the goal, after they take the lead. They are the dominant team. You're expecting them to take the lead, so you simply back them at whatever odds are available. After the goal goes in, their odds are going to go much lower and you can cash out for a profit. Very, very simple strategy. However, many newbies do go wrong with this, and we're going to get into the whys and the whats very, very shortly. But the domination strategy, you're going to do this on the match odds market only. I'm sure you guessed that. But this is the crucial part here. You must be watching the live pictures when you're using a method like this. I really do not think that you can be long-term profitable with a method like this, doing this blindly. You have to be watching the live pictures and using your own judgment about whether it's worth using a strategy or not. So basically what you would do with the domination strategy is you're going to watch the first 10 to 15 minutes of the match and look for a dominant team. Now, this might not always be the favorite. In most cases, it's going to be the favorite. The favorite is going to dominate, and that is the team you're going to favor. It's not always going to be the favorite, but in most cases it will be. And of course, if there is a dominant team and you've identified that, then you back them with 100% of your stake. You just go in full 100%. There's no breaking up the stake. There's none of that. It's very, very simple. You just go in 100% of your stake and back that dominant team. But of course, they need to be dominant. And this is how a lot of newbies do go wrong, is that they just think, well, that team looks a little bit better than that team, so yeah, I'm going to back them. No, we really need that team to dominate. And you can use the in-game stats alongside your own match reading as well. So you can look for 60% possession on the in-game statistics. But like I said, you need to see this as well. You need to see that they are really dominant and the other team isn't really getting a sniff. That's what you're looking for there. So if you're watching the game, you feel a team is dominating, then you can look at the in-game statistics and look at a percentage on the possession. And if you can see 60% and it confirms what you're seeing, then that is a pretty good sign to get involved. Of course, it could just be close goal attempts as well, which can also be pretty important and give you a good indication that a team is dominating. They might not quite have 60% if they've got 55%, but they're looking very close to scoring. Maybe they've already had a good chance. Then of course you could still get involved, but it is a judgment call and you need to make that judgment based on the live action that is happening in front of you. This is a strategy that relies a lot on skill, that is for sure. So let's take a look at some exit points. So you know what to do when we get in the market with this one. Now, the times we get out the market, there are a few exit points. So obviously a goal for the dominating team, that's exactly what we want. That's what we're trying to achieve here. And that is going to produce a profit. That is the best case scenario with this. The worst case scenario would be a goal against the run of play. That is obviously going to produce a loss. The loss would be varying, but you could be looking at around 50% of your stake would be lost if a goal goes against a run of play. But remember, as I mentioned, this is skill. You need to really back the dominating team and make sure they are dominating. If you can consistently back a dominating team, then a goal against a run of play isn't something you should worry about too often. It will happen from time to time, because it does happen, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. But generally, it should be a rare thing. And if it does keep happening, you get goals against a run of play going against you, then you need to maybe rethink your entry point and your match reading and decide, is this team really dominating? So let's move on to another exit point. If there is no goal, because there's not always going to be a goal either way, so halftime 0-0, that would be your other exit point. If there are no goals, you're just going to get out at halftime when it's 0-0. And this is going to produce a loss of around 10 to 15% on your stake. Main reason for getting out at halftime is because the price on the favorite shouldn't have drifted too much by the halftime whistle. But in the second half, that price really starts to drift very, very quickly. So halftime 0-0, that is your other exit point if there are no goals. And like I said, you're going to expect a loss of around 10 to 15%. But I do want to say, the more dominant the team, the lower the loss will be. I've been in situations where I've used this strategy and the dominant team was so dominant that when it did reach halftime and there were no goals, I was actually still in profit. The market had steamed in my favor, and just by a few ticks, I was actually in profit, and I could just get out with not actually having lost any money at all. I actually gained a few pounds on that one. So that can happen. Don't expect that to happen all the time, but just be prepared for a 10 to 15% loss if it is a halftime 0-0. And of course, there is another exit point with this. It's not just getting out after a goal or getting out at half time. This is the tricky part of the strategy, and what you need to do is use your match reading skills to get out if the dominating team loses momentum. This is your other exit point, and you need to be very, very disciplined to do this because, well, it is easier said than done. I see a lot of newbies, they use this method, they get involved, they back the dominating team, the team is dominating. However, the tide of the match, the flow of the match, it can change. It can change very quickly. And all of a sudden, if you see the other team starting getting involved in a match and it becomes a little bit more even, then that's your time to close the trade and look to use something else. But I know a lot of newbies will kind of freeze in this moment and not want to believe what they're seeing and will stay in the market. And then worst case scenario can happen. A goal can go to the other team and they'll complain, but really all the warning signs were there, and you could have got out of the market. You could have remained disciplined and got out of the market once the warning signs popped up. But that's what you have to do. You really have to use your match reading skills to get out if the dominating team loses momentum. This is the big skill part of this sort of strategy here. Now, this strategy does work best with favorites that are priced, I would say 1.50 and above, because you need, obviously, after a goal goes in, you need to be able to win some ticks. Now, you could do this on a favorite that is 1.10, but the upside isn't as big as the downside. There's a big downside if a goal goes against you or there is no goal. Now, a lot of the time you're going to win it, but backing a team at 1.10, 1.20, you're not winning that many ticks. 1.50 and above gives you a lot more ticks to go with. And by backing favorites, you're going to have the best time with this strategy when you're just starting out. Favorites are the best way to go because in most cases, they are going to take the lead. But obviously, the higher the odds, the bigger the profit potential. So if you wanted to back a favorite that is above evens, then go for it. If they are dominant, then that could be a great opportunity because if a goal goes in, you're going to be in a good position to gain a lot of ticks. But of course, the higher the odds, the riskier it gets. That is for sure. But it's time now to look at some live trading examples of using the domination strategy recorded all on Betfair. so you can see exactly how it works out. But before we get into that, I just want to quickly say that the doors to the premium course, Ultimate Football Trading, will be opening again very soon. So if you're aiming to make a second income from your football trading and you want to learn some strategies, there are 8 strategies to learn in this, and this is definitely the place to be. Remember, spaces are very, very limited, so you have to check the links in the description for more information. Okay, let's get into the live trading examples with the domination strategy. So here's an example which fits the strategy. We've just watched the first 10 minutes of this match between Burnley and Chelsea. Chelsea, very, very dominant, actually had a pretty good chance just a minute ago to take the lead. And we're about 12 minutes in, so we've made our decision. And you can kind of see it highlighted here. They've had 61% of the possession, so they are the dominating team, that is for sure. So it is as simple as just backing Chelsea. Let's just back them now with a £100 stake. Let's just get that in the market. And we're going to be matched at a price of 1.89. If I can quickly just bring up the chart just to show you, you can see on the chart here as well that because Chelsea started so well, the price has started to steam as well. And, well, the longer it steams, the less of a potential loss we'll be looking at if the goal doesn't arrive. So let's see what happens. We're just going to watch how the match develops now. As long as Chelsea are dominant, we stay in the market. If they lose steam and Burnley get into it, then we just get out. But we're aiming for a Chelsea goal in this first half. And we didn't have to wait long at all. Chelsea took the lead. All the pressure paid off, and a big example of a dominant team. You just back them and you can be rewarded. So you can see here, off a £100 stake, we're now left with a £58 free bet on Chelsea, or if we cash out, we can just take the £43.93. And it was a £100 stake, so you can just see that is pretty much a 44% return there when the goal came pretty quickly. So we could just cash that out just for simplicity's sake and move on. But there's a quick example of the domination strategy. It's Burnley 0, Chelsea 1. Burnley dominated the first 10-15 minutes, 60% possession. We backed them, they scored a goal, and we've made our profit. Nice and simple. So this is Hanover against Bayern Munich, and as you would probably expect if you know anything about football, Bayern Munich, very, very dominant. They are the away team, 62% possession so far, and it's actually been better than that, to be honest. Just watching the game here, they've had a couple chances. They had a header over the bar and another similar close chance, and whoa, see, almost just scored there again. So there you go. These are all the sorts of signs you're looking for with this strategy. So we've got in. I backed them just now at 1.50, and the dominance has been so much that, and look, there's another chance. See? Their dominance has been so much that the price has actually started to move in even more. So let's see what happens. It's 0-0, 15 minutes in, and we got involved with the strategy, and I'll give you an update very, very shortly. In the end, this one was 0-0 at half time, so that means we have to cash out for a loss. But I just want to show you, I mean, Bayern Munich were absolutely dominant. 76 possession. They had 8 goal attempts, 4 on target. I really do not know how they didn't manage to score in that first half. But when you're using this strategy, you have to remain disciplined. So I have got out for a loss, which in this case is £12.78. So it's pretty much a 12 or 13% loss on your stake. So you have to be prepared for that. Sometimes it will be very frustrating. You'll back the team that is dominant. They'll have chance after chance and they won't find the goal. And you might be tempted to stay in into the second half. But if you're practicing this sort of strategy, you need to get out at half time and reassess, because these odds are going to start to drift very, very quickly in the second half. So you're going to need a different sort of strategy in the second half. You can't keep the same strategy going. But yeah, this one was 0-0. This one was a loss, 13% loss on your stake. So be prepared for that. That's what can happen when it is goalless at half time and that dominant team just doesn't find the net. It will happen. Be prepared for it. So we're 11 minutes in on this one. Brentford against QPR, and the home favourite extremely dominant. 62% of the possession. Few goal attempts already as well. So definitely this looks like it's set to get involved in. So just going to back Brentford here Hopefully we'll get matched to 1.52. If I just bring up their chart, I was observing the odds at the start of the match, and I just want to show you that this was the odds at kickoff here. Because of their dominant start, they've actually steamed in a little bit. So that's always a good indication that they are dominating when their price steams in play. That's always something to look out for. And then you can get involved as well. You know, the price available was about 1.56 or 1.57. And we've got in at 1.52, a bit of a lower price. But we've had enough time to make the decision. We watched the first 10 minutes and we saw how dominant Brentford have been. So it's time to back them. And now we're going to see what happens next. It's 0-0. We're going to let this one run till a goal is scored or till half time. Okay, so we didn't have to wait long for the goal there at all. The goal went in. I've just lost my stream. My stream has just frozen. You have to be prepared for that when you're accessing streams on the internet to try and follow these games. But well, there you go. So it just removed all the risk from the trade there. I just laid Brentford where with £100. Remember, we backed them 1.52, so I just laid them at 1.22 after they've just taken the lead. But now I could cash out now for an equal profit of £24.39. But of course, I mean, while they're dominant, you could let it run for a little bit longer. A second Brentford goal would be great. That you got a much bigger profit potential there just for letting it run, and of course you have no risk on all the other outcomes there. So you can also let it run as a free bet. That is totally up to you, but there's just another quick example of the domination strategy. A lot of the time you won't have to wait too long. When a team is very dominant, the goal is going to follow pretty quickly. So there you have it. Brentford 1, QPR 0. This is 18 minutes in, Sheffield Wednesday against Reading, and Sheffield Wednesday, they're the favourite in this one, absolutely dominant, 69% of the possession so far, just had a really good attempt on goal as well. So what we're going to do is, well, what I've already done is I just backed Sheffield Wednesday here, and as you can see, they're quite a bit, well, they're not odds on, they're above even, so if this one comes in, it will be quite a nice result. And obviously, like I said, it doesn't have to be an odds-on favourite. If you can spot an opportunity at the higher odds, then it can be a great opportunity to get involved in. And this one looks like a good one. So Sheffield Wednesday 0, Reading 0. We're going to let this one run till half-time or until a goal is scored. And we just had the goal, and it has gone to Sheffield Wednesday. So we got rewarded. We spotted the opportunity. We spotted a dominant team that, you know, wasn't even a strong odds-on favourite, and we've been rewarded with the goals. So Sheffield Wednesday 1, Reading 0. Laying Sheffield Wednesday here at 1.48, and that was after we backed them at a price of around 2.36 to average that out. Now, what you can see, I've got an £87 free bet on Sheffield Wednesday, or I could cash this out for a £58 profit, which would be either a 58% return on my stake or an 87% return if I just want to let it run and gamble that Sheffield Wednesday are actually going to win this game. Either way, I've got no risk left on this trade. I'm not going to lose any money on this. But it just goes to show, I mean, if you get involved at the higher odds, then, you know, there's more profit potential to be made. As you saw in the earlier example with Brentford, I mean, we locked in potentially as much as 30% return on our stake. Here, it could be 87% return on your stake. So it can pay to get involved at the higher odds, but obviously it can be a little bit more riskier. So we're just going to cash this out. Sheffield Wednesday 1, Reading 0. Just for simplicity's sake, we're just going to cash this out for the demonstration. And in the end, it was a 59% return on the stake. So not bad. Sheffield Wednesday 1, Reading 0. Just a quick example to show you what can happen if you spot the opportunities at the higher odds. And of course, remember, with this strategy, you cannot always get it right. Sometimes there will just be a goal against the run of play. And when it does, you're probably looking at, like I said, 50% loss on your stake at least. Sometimes it could be 60%. It really can vary depending on the odds you backed at. But this is what's just happened here in this Austrian match. I mean, they were an odds-on favourite. Mattersburg, they were dominant, but hey, goal against the run of play, and it can happen. And you just have to be disciplined enough to get out of the market and take the loss. Now, of course, at this point, when a goal goes in against the run of play, if Mattersburg have been dominant, then there is a new opportunity. There's a new opportunity to use a different strategy, opposing this team, especially if they've taken the lead against the run of play. Ultimate Football Trader members, this is the precise time you should start using the relay reloaded method. But of course, either way, get out the market and protect your stake and just kind of stick to the rules of the strategy. I would also say if you use this method and you keep getting caught out by goals against the run of play, then you're clearly picking the wrong matches and you need to sharpen those match reading skills. But just be aware of that. This is the worst case scenario that can happen when you're using the domination strategy, is that you get involved and then a goal goes in against you. It can happen. It will happen. You just have to be prepared for this. Of course, it isn't just a goal against a run of play that is the worst case scenario. Something else that can happen, and which is very rare, is you could get a red card to the dominating team. I mean, this isn't something to worry about too often, but it does happen. And when it happens, it is just as bad as conceding a goal. In this one, we got involved. We backed Fiorentina. They were absolutely dominant, 64% of the possession. But they just had a red card, and it's not great. Two yellow cards, so they're down to 10 men. And the markets have reacted, and we just got to get out. We just got to get out for what is going to be a 60% loss on our stake. So obviously that's something else you can be prepared for. If we could just even this out, it'll actually be a 57% loss. So red cards can happen as well. They're not great. You just have to take it, treat it as if it is a goal against you, and just get out of the market at that point. So you've seen now the worst case scenarios. It is a goal against the run of play, and also red cards can happen. Goals against the run of play should be quite rare if you're getting involved in the matches you should be getting involved with, and red cards should be even rarer. If anything, the red card for the underdog is a lot more likely than a red card for a dominant team. But it's good to always see these examples anyway. So this one's 0-0, and we took a 57% loss on our stake. So that wraps it up for live examples of the domination strategy. But before you go, I'm going to show you some typical newbie mistakes that you can avoid if you do want to start using this strategy and you do want to start experimenting with this. I would say the biggest newbie mistake I always see happening with newbies who want to use this method is using this method blindly. Suddenly, a lot of newbies don't want to bother with watching a match. They just want to do something like look at the in-game stats on one of the live score websites. They want to assume, because the stats say that a team is dominating, that they really are dominating, and then they want to back that team, and then they don't even keep up with the action. They just hope for the best. While it's going to work sometimes, honestly, your end results are going to be very, very mediocre, and you're going to be struggling to make a profit. You might end up in a situation where you just break even, and you're wondering, why am I only breaking even with this? Well, there you go. You're not putting in the time to watch the match and use your own judgment. There really is no substitute, especially with a method like this. You really need to watch the live action. Another newbie mistake is also not accepting that the match flow has changed. Like I said, I find many newbies will spot a dominating team, and they'll be correct in that, and they'll get their money in the market, but then the match flow changes, and suddenly the team that wasn't dominating, they get back in the match, and it becomes a little bit more even. And a lot of newbies hate to admit that they're wrong, and they hate to just then suddenly have to get out, and then they start to stay in and hope for the best. And really, you shouldn't be hoping, you should be expecting. So you should be getting involved with a method like this because you're expecting that dominant team to score a goal any minute and take the lead. Don't ever let it turn into a situation where you're hoping that team that you've backed is going to take the lead. That is a clear sign that you stayed in the market for too long. And also another newbie mistake is staying in beyond half time. Again, a lot of newbies will let this turn into a big gamble. With this method, you're taking advantage of the fact that a dominant team doesn't usually, if they are being dominant, their price doesn't usually drift that much in the first half. As you saw, it can be a 10 to 15% loss in the worst cases if it's still level at half time. And A lot of newbies will say that and say, well, I'm sure the goal's going to come early in the second half, then they'll stay in, the price will drift against them to the point where they're like, oh, I'm just going to stay in now till the end and hope for the best. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, if you're a football trader, you need to have your exit point in place and you need to stick to it. Otherwise, like I've said in other videos, you may as well just have a bet. Have a bet, put the bet in the market and just walk away. There's a big difference between betting and a big difference between trading. So that wraps it up, and I just want to say thank you for watching. Remember, if you like all these videos and you want to see more of them, then make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications as well so you get the new videos as soon as they come out. There's a couple of videos for you to watch next. Remember, check the links in the description for a free gift and also more information on how you can access Ultimate Football Trading when the doors open once again. See you in the next video.